Hello and welcome back to my fortnightly vlog. Today I'm going to share something with you about how the mind works and why we often have so many more negative thoughts than positive thoughts, and what you can do about that to make yourself feel happier. So you'll have probably heard me before say that the brain is wired for survival and not for happiness, if you followed me for a while. And what that means is the brain naturally, without us intervening and giving it something else to focus on, will look out for things that are a threat to us. Now, back in ye olde times, when we had to hunt and gather our food, that was literally look out for predators that were going to eat us while we were going about finding our lunch or dinner. In modern day times, that is actually very different, but the instinct is still there, and therefore the mind is still programmed to focus on the negative and not on the positive. And if you're not aware of that, then that might explain if you found yourself feeling, particularly in the last 12 months, low and worried and anxious and any of those feelings. It's completely normal, and I definitely am not in the camp of ignoring those feelings. I work with clients to help them understand what those feelings are trying to tell us, if there's any validity in them, and help us to reprogram them to feel better in ourselves, which is ultimately what I believe we all want. So I've got a live example from a client who sent me a message recently. She came to me with something that was happening in relation to her relationship with her horse. They'd had a bad experience together, she was struggling to get past it, and therefore so was the horse. So we worked on the issue that she had, and then I sent her off to go and carry on about her merry way with her horse. And I got a message from her, which is really common when I work with people, to tell me how things have gone. Now, the message was really positive. She was telling me that what we'd worked on that has previously been an issue had gone really well. The reason I'm sharing with you is actually for this next bit. This is what she said after she said, "And I'm so pleased." She then said, "I know it won't always be like that, but I'm taking the small wins when they arise." Now, why that matters, there's nothing wrong with taking the small wins when they arise. But what she said in that statement is, "I know that it won't always be that way." Now, language really matters because our subconscious mind, which is where a lot of our programming is always listening. Firstly, she can't know that it will always be that way or won't always be that way because she can't see the future. And by telling herself that she knows it's not always going to be that way, she's inadvertently expecting it not to be good every time. Now, where horses are concerned, and actually in life in general, energy really matters. So if she goes into this situation again, expecting it to be difficult, she's going to be putting energy out there that her horse will for sure pick up on and probably will behave in a way that she did before she came to me. So it's really important to recognise that that sentence, and there's no criticism of her because this is completely normal with the way that the brain works. And even when you've started to do some of the work, like this client, it takes some getting used to recognise these things to actually be able to turn them around. But it's really important to be focused on the detail. So she can't know that it's not going to go that way every time. And what's really important is how we can help our minds focus more on what we want rather than on what we don't want, is actually to expect things to happen in the way that we want them to. Now, that might be easier said than done, and I'm going to share a little tip with you here of how you can give yourself a better chance of making that happen. I'm sure you all know that if you've got something coming up that you're a little bit concerned about or nervous or you think might not go the way that you want it to, you will very often have the scenario playing in your mind about what you don't want to happen, what you probably expect will happen, but what you don't want to happen. And often, literally by focusing on it in your mind, just having it playing over and over again, and it's completely unintentional, so there's no judgment from me here on this, it will bring about that thing that you don't want, because that is how powerful our mind is. And the subconscious mind does not distinguish between what we want or what's good for us and what's not good for us. It literally just takes the message that we're playing over and over in our head and it gives us what we have created in our imagination. Now, I'm mindful that I'm going into quite a lot of detail here, and if you're interested in working on something yourself, then definitely get in touch, because one-to-one work on this basis is so powerful. But here is the tip if that's not viable for you right now. When you notice yourself imagining something happening how you don't want it to go, flip it. 180 degrees, and literally imagine what you do want to happen. So I work with quite a lot of horse riders, so I'm a rider myself, and one of the things that people really struggle with is if they've had a bad experience with, let's say, jumping or a dressage movement and they've fluffed it up. People have issues with jumping ditches or drops or water or even oxes in the show jumping. They get something in their head. It doesn't matter what it is, the process is the same. And what happens is they imagine unintentionally it not going well over and over and over again. And the key thing is to really notice that happening and stop your mind in its tracks and flip it 180 to what you do want to. So how you do that, you notice it first of all, you stop it, and then you direct it to what you do want. So you take some time out, you take some quiet time, and you focus really hard on what you do want. So let's take the example of a horse jumping a ditch. You've had lots of experience about the fact that the horse doesn't like ditches in your mind. The horse has stopped, maybe you've fallen off, whatever the case may be. What will normally happen is people will ride towards the ditch and they'll be thinking, oh my God, it's a ditch. Oh goodness, oh crikey, the horse doesn't like ditches. We've had a problem with ditches before. And your mind goes into playing what you don't want to happen. And 9 times out of 10, if not even higher, you will have a problem. Either the horse will stop, or it won't go close enough to stop and it just backs off, or it might stop and then take a massive jump and have a really kind of sticky moment. So how to get around that, and any other situation doesn't need to be horse related. Flip it. What do you want? You want to be going towards the ditch and feeling amazing, like your horse is absolutely on it. So what you imagine is your horse and you jumping that ditch like it's the easiest thing in the world. And you need to take time out and focus on that. Focus really hard. What's going to happen initially is your brain is going to go, no, I can't imagine that. It's too hard, because the practice bit of it not going well is really easy. And that's the pattern that the brain has been running. The pattern that you want to change it to will feel, if you imagine like a video playing, will feel like it's buffering to start with. Back in the days before the internet was good enough to stream films, it would buffer and judder. That is what will happen to start with, because you're literally creating a new pathway in your brain and it's totally unknown. Your brain likes what's familiar. What's familiar is the bad experience. But notice the difference between it's bad, but your brain still wants it. So your brain, as I said earlier, doesn't distinguish whether something is good or bad. It's just what's known. Why it's so difficult to do this without understanding the mechanics of it is the brain doesn't like change. So it's focusing on what it knows. And what it knows is, oh, I don't like ditches. My horse doesn't like ditches. Ditches are bad. Clearly, that's not a place where you want to stay, but your subconscious mind doesn't differentiate. It's known. It's happy to stay there. So when you go to focus your mind on something that you do want, which is you guys flying over the ditch together easily in harmony without any difficulty at all, it's hard for your brain. It's really, really, really worth sticking with this, because what will happen, you spend enough time, dedicate enough time to telling your mind what you do want it to focus on. You practice it going really well as you think it can go, or not even as well as you think, but as well as you would like it to go, over and over and over again. And you're really disciplined about stopping the negative program and focusing on what you do want. Eventually, this side of your brain that's been running the program of the ditch being a problem will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the ditch not being a problem and being easy will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you will eventually drown this one out with the positive one over time. It is so worthwhile doing that in investing that time. And I've used a horsey example here because the client that came to me was a horsey person, but you can do it with anything. Let's say if you are worried you've got a presentation to do, you're going up on stage and your mind is going, oh my God, you're going to forget what you're going to say. You're going to be nervous. You're going to stutter. You're going to have a coughing fit. Whatever it is that you're imagining could go wrong, you need to replace that with you going onto stage, you feeling really confident and actually delivering it immaculately. The key thing is to really feel those feelings. So what will you feel when you're flying over that ditch with your horse in complete harmony? What will you feel when you're standing on stage delivering content that you're really passionate about and that you're really good at? When you get into those specifics and you get into those feelings, that becomes the reality rather than the negative program that you've previously unintentionally been running. And what then happens is, as you come up to the ditch on the course, or as you go to step on the stage, your brain, because you've practiced it over and over again, goes, oh, I know how this goes, and it runs the positive program. It does not matter if you haven't done it in real life, because the brain, and this is the really powerful bit, the brain does not know the difference between what's real over here and what's imagined. So if you can recognize that your imagination is creating things that you don't want over here unintentionally, your imagination is doing its job. What you need to do to improve your life and give yourself a better chance of things going how you want is feed your information with better stuff. Feed your information, feed your imagination with better information. That's what I'm trying to say. So what's really important to know is you won't have been aware that this pattern has been running because it's automatic. That's the way that the mind works. And the brain processes something frightening like 60,000 thoughts a day, and over 80% of those are negative if we don't reprogram them. And over 95% of them are repetitive. So therefore, you are unintentionally, until you make a difference, running in your mind negative thoughts that are on repeat. This process that I've just talked about here changes that. What you need to remember is to think the opposite of what is causing you to feel low. So instinctively your mind will focus on what it doesn't want, or what it thinks is going to happen in a negative sense. Flip it 180 degrees to make it focus on the positive. Do that consistently. Take the time out to do it multiple times a day. Set aside 5 minutes, set an alarm on your phone. This makes the world of difference. If you'd like to know more, you can find out more on my website. It's BeYourBestYet.co.uk. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest on Be Your Best Yet. Loads more tips. And if you've got something that you're worried about or that's causing you to not have as great a life as you'd want to be, then one-to-one coaching might just be for you. Get in touch and find out how I can help. Have a great day.